Hey guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we're going to talk about Sasaki and Miyano episode 11. I'm sorry I didn't talk about last week's episode, which is episode 10. It's just I was really busy and I had no time for it at all. So yeah, that's why there's no episode 10, but without further ado, let's talk about episode 11 because there's a lot of things I want to talk about regarding this week's episode. So, this week's episode, we start off where we last left off in episode 10, where Miyano finally realizes and admits that he likes Sasaki. He is completely sure 100% of his feelings now, and he almost told Sasaki how he felt, but he stopped himself and he was like, oh my gosh, I almost told him in this public place. And then he starts to realize like it takes a lot of courage to tell the person that you like your feelings and like just tell them. So he is like trying to figure out what to do next, and they basically just kind of go about their day. And while this is all happening, we get to see that Hanzawa senpai is there and he saw the whole thing, which was interesting because when I saw this scene happening with Hanzawa, it almost felt like he didn't like seeing Miyano and Sasaki together. I don't know why. This was like a different side of Hanzawa that I hadn't seen yet, and I was like, oh my gosh, don't tell me like he is like homophobic or something, or that he doesn't, or like that he likes Miyano, because it was like giving me vibes of, oh crap, he's in love with Miyano, isn't he? And like that's what I thought at first, you know, because it was just like not necessarily like a weird scene, but it was unexpected, and I was just like, whoa, this is different from Hanzawa, because we usually see him like happy-go-lucky, joking around and, you know, teasing people, but at the same time I always got this vibe of Hanzawa where I feel like I don't want to say like he's two-faced, but I feel like he was hiding a part of himself. I don't know, like that's just the kind of vibe that I got from Hanzawa. And you know, later on in this episode we actually do get to see a little bit more about him and get to know him a little bit better, which I guess let's go ahead and talk about that since we're already on the topic of Hanzawa senpai. Towards the end of the episode we get to see that he sees Miyano during Christmas when, you know, Miyano and Sasaki had agreed to meet up, right? And we have this moment with Hanzawa senpai where we really get to know him a lot more. And it was honestly really nice because I was really curious about this character because, again, like I said, I feel like we haven't really seen his true self or who he really is. I feel like he just puts on a show, if that makes any sense. So seeing him out and about like this with his brother was really, really nice. And we got to find out that he has other brothers, and we found out about his past, how two of his brothers are gay, and how they came out to his mom. And during that whole conversation, his mom also asked him like, hey, like what about you, like to Hanzawa, are you into guys? And he's like, no, I'm into girls. And he notices that his mom sounded relieved when he said that, so he starts questioning, why did she sound relieved, like what's the deal there? You know, during this whole entire thing, when he runs into Miyano, like his brother starts asking him, oh, is he your boyfriend? And he mentions how he looks really happy to be talking to Miyano. And, you know, once Miyano leaves, his brother like apologizes to him, and he also asks like, hey, do you have feelings for Yokohai? Which is something that I was thinking about from the beginning of this episode, because again, I was like, oh, don't tell me he has feelings for Miyano. And we get confirmation from Hanzawa where he's like, yeah, no, he's just my kohai, that's all I think about him, like leave him out of this. And that's actually when we learn from his brother how Hanzawa tends to have like so many friends and gets close to people, but he never dates anybody. And his brother wonders if that was his fault because of, you know, their whole situation. But of course Hanzawa reassures his brother and he's like, no, I like girls, that's just how I roll. And he also ends up apologizing to his brother and tells him, you know, that there's nothing wrong with his love. And that's when we get to see how Hanzawa feels more reassured seeing Miyano and Sasaki together, and how in love and how much fun they're having together. He feels at ease seeing them, and he can see that, you know, his brothers are going to be okay in the future. So when I started seeing all this, I'm like, oh, this makes more sense. He was more concerned about his brothers and their futures and probably how people would see them and approach them. So he was really worried about their future. And I feel like that says a lot about Hanzawa. He has a big heart for sure. And this just made me love him more as a character because, again, I didn't know how to feel about him and I was just like, I don't know. But this just cemented, my love for Hanzawa because he definitely cares for his family and he just wanted to make sure that they would be okay in the future and not have, difficulties later on because of who they love. But I'm glad that he was able to see through Sasaki and Miyano that, his brothers are gonna be okay. I just thought the whole scene was like really beautiful, just seeing the interaction between him and his brother. Anyway, so now let's move back to Miyano. Let's focus on Miyano because this episode, oh man. So Miyano has been trying to tell Sasaki how he feels, but he has never had the right moment or chance to tell him. He never finds that opportunity and it ends up being like several days later and he's just like, oh my gosh, I let it go a little bit longer than it needed to be. And his class ends up trying to do like this Christmas get together for all the singles, and I love that his friend Kurosawa is like, hey Miyano, lift up your hand. And we know that Miyano isn't dating anyone, which Miyano was like, hey, why'd you do that? And I love that Kurosawa was like, it's just to keep your options open and that way you have your day free and you can decide whether or not you want to go to the Christmas party. But to me, when Kurosawa said this, I was like, nah man, you're just disguising it as that. Like, he knows the situation between Sasaki and Miyano, so I'm sure he wanted to keep Miyano's day open for Sasaki in case, they wanted to hang out or something, which I think is really considerate of Kurosawa. Like, Kurosawa is just like a really good friend, and every time we get to see more of him, the more I just love this character so much. Like, he is such a good friend and such a good character. He is just a really fun character overall. It's like never a dull moment with him. And it's funny because his other friend Tashiro, he was just kind of like a little, not necessarily jealous, but he was just like looking at Miyano like, how dare you traitor. And Kurosawa was like, dude, you're getting the wrong idea. It's just to keep his options open. And plus, he's an otaku, they probably have some things going on that they need to do. And then Tashiro's like, oh, so that's what it is. He's like, man, I thought, he was finally dating Sasaki. And it's so cute because the way that Tashiro just comes out and says it is just, I don't know. I just thought it was so adorable and so sweet. And it just goes to tell you, like, how accepting his friends are, especially Tashiro. Like, he had nothing to say about it, like, bad. I just thought it was really sweet. Like, the way that he said it was just so, like, innocent and childlike, if that makes any sense. But yeah, like, overall, Miyano has some really good friends, and that's so sweet to see. Anyway, so Miyano is also trying to figure out how he can see Sasaki during Christmas, and he's also thinking about like what he thought about not thought about, but what he learned in class, how if you get together with someone before Christmas, you're bound to break up. So he's trying to avoid that at all costs. So he decides that he's not gonna tell Sasaki his feelings during their Christmas break or Christmas holidays, but he still wants to see, Sasaki during the holidays. But he kind of feels bad and he wants to like give Sasaki the time that he needs because he has like all these tests and stuff like that, like for college entrance exams, I think, something like that. He's studying for something, so he doesn't want to interfere with that. So he kind of feels bad. He's like, but I want to see him, but I don't want to like interfere with that. I want to be considerate of everything. And that's when he starts to, realize like, oh my gosh, was it like this for Sasaki, where he's being really considerate of me and stuff like that. Like, he's starting to realize things that Sasaki had probably gone through all this time with Miyano, and it's just really sweet. Like, they're both like, I think it's sweet just because Sasaki and Miyano always think about each other and they're always considerate of their time and their feelings. Like, they're just so cute and adorable, and their relationship is just so healthy, and it's so nice to see. Anyway, so while Miyano is like thinking about all this, Sasaki actually is the one to invite Miyano on Christmas to go to like this I believe it was like an art exhibition for the BL movie that they went to go see. And I love how Miyano's like, oh, isn't it gonna interfere with like your studies or whatnot? And Sasaki's like, no, like just think of it as like a little break. I need it. And and just come with me. And I'm just like, oh, like they're just so cute. So they definitely went to go see each other for Christmas, and that made me really, really happy to see that they got to spend some time during the holidays with each other. Anyway, so moving on, after the holidays, Miyano feels safe enough to finally admit, to Sasaki his feelings. He just needs to figure out when. And he tries to get Sasaki alone, but something always comes up, and it's never the right time, which sucks because you see like this whole scene where people are like pulling Miyano away or Sasaki away, and Miyano's just like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? I want to tell him. Like, I was just like, oh, this sucks. Like, I was getting so frustrated. I was like, man, can y'all not, like, let this boy confess? Like, let him confess. But anyway, Sasaki finally ends up asking Miyano, like, hey, let's walk home together. And Miyano uses this opportunity to tell him, like, hey, that's awesome. I'll gladly walk with you. But there's something I want to talk to you about. So Sasaki's like, all right, sure, let's talk after school. And once we get to after school, we get to find out one of Miyano's little quirks that Sasaki noticed of Miyano switching his bag to the other shoulder. And he's like, why do you do that? And then we find out that Miyano has been doing that just to be considerate of Sasaki so he doesn't hit him with his bag. And I think that's so cute. And then Sasaki starts to wonder, like, how long has he been doing this? Like, oh, like, it's so cute. Like, I was dying, which this provoked Sasaki into wanting to kiss Miyano, and he almost did, and I was just like dying. I was like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening, that we're finally gonna get to see them kiss. But he snaps out of it once Miyano touches him, and he ends up feeling really bad. He's like, I'm sorry, you know what, I'm just gonna go home. And that's what causes Miyano to panic, and he was just like, wait, and that's how the episode ends? Like, what? I can't believe that's how the episode ends. I was so mad and frustrated. Like, I just wanted to see that confession, and I was like, Miyano, go get your man, go after your boy, go, don't let him escape. This is your chance, this is your moment. Oh man. But yeah, so that's how this week's episode ended. And next week's episode, which is coming pretty soon, is the final episode, which makes me really sad because I always looked forward to Sundays with Sasaki and Miyano, just my daily fluff. And it's gonna be really sad not to see more episodes of Sasaki and Miyano. But I cannot wait to see how they wrap up the anime. And yeah, so that is all I really have to say for this week's episode of Sasaki and Miyano. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing all my thoughts. And yeah, so I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out there, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!